Hi, this is Story Corner. I have been writing stories for a while now. They often have a basis in truth. This is my homemade studio here. That's my new djembe drum. I'm taking drum lessons. All right. These are not stories for children. They are written by a grown man, sometimes about being a child, or at least younger. There was a girl living down the road in our suburb of the small town of Summerland called Trout Creek. We both took the school bus. I was the oblivious golden boy, having arrived on the scene in my 15th year. Apparently people looked up to me, even admired me. I did the sports with jocks, made the music with hipsters, acted the drama for everybody, conversed with the geeks on science, partied on the weekends with the potheads. Didn't hurt that I had a full beard at 16, so I could buy beer. Simply stated, my own personal self-esteem and strange perceptions did not allow me to share the same opinion of myself as most. I just did my things and was happy when those things were fun and didn't go too far south. I was noted as being strange, but I was handsome and nice, so they seemed to dig me anyway. Esther was the pariah. I did not grow up in this town. I did not know I was supposed to spit on her. She was, in honesty, somewhat striking. 5'10" at least, slim, blonde, above average looks when you could see past her horn-rimmed glasses and that lank front-combed hair. I did not speak to her much, but neither did I revile and ridicule her, as was the consensus behavior of the rest of my little suburb. Not sure why, but from kindergarten she was alternately shunned and abused, and in that quaint small-town way, the label did not change. This despite her pubescent transformation to tall and blonde. By the time I arrived, she had shifted from openly tormented to simply ignored. She managed to close in on herself and disappear from view. Their view, at least. I did not know better. I remember walking behind her one day on the way to the bus stop. I was 50 yards back. I saw her stop, stare down at the ground, kneel and peer at something on the asphalt, poke it with a pen, and then carry on. I approached the spot with some curiosity and found upon arrival a fresh piece of roadkill. Okay, I did not say she was normal, though whether her oddness was a result of or a cause for her torment, I don't know. I suspect a shady home environment, but then I always do. I said hi to her a few times, and when she shyly turned away, realized it was causing her more pain than my saying nothing, but I continued to do it. Just that little thing. I said hi or nodded to her in class. She eventually realized I was not setting her up and, began to nod back. Just that. By the way, this is not the story where the golden boy and the shy girl get together, just so you know. By grade 11, I was firmly embedded in the little town. I was, as told me years later, nice enough to make my weird ideas entertaining as opposed to challenging, engaging rather than threatening to the small town myopia. I suspect it helped that I was also quite a lot of fun. The school bus that took the kids to my little suburb, about 4 miles down the hill from town, was the last bus to leave. By the time everyone else had gone, there were between 15 and 20 bored kids left in the schoolyard. I had my license by this point, as well as my personal chariot, a 1954 Dodge Fargo truck made entirely of steel and with a top speed of 54 miles per hour. In retrospect, it would have been a more suitable creature for the admittedly high-concept idea I was struck with that day, though perhaps even I, in my left-of-center world, might have realized the potential jeopardy in an open-bed truck represented. I waited for the day I was instead driving my dad's 1968 Ford station wagon to pull up to the schoolyard, now empty save for the regulars waiting for the bus to Trout Creek. I did not screech to a halt in front of the bus stop. I've never been a flashy driver. But I did roll up, jump out, and enroll every single kid in my plan to freak out the bus driver by having them all be bussed home by me instead. It is a testament to my enthusiasm and the design of the car that we did it. Admittedly, the Ford was a monster of a thing, and some of the kids were quite small. But I still might have the record. I'm not exaggerating when I say there were at least 15 kids, besides myself, jammed into that poor beast. I levered, piled, and squozed their madly giggling selves in, little ones stacked slave ship-like in the voluminous back, the more puberty-struck, gangly ones in the middle seat, and 3 or 4 older ones up front. I shouldered the last squiggling urchin through a window, turned in satisfaction to survey the fruits of my labor, and to imagine the look on the bus driver's face, and there stood Esther. I saw it all in an instant. She was looking in sheer savage dread at a car full of tormentors, none of whom had ever bothered to say hi to her in the bus stop, let alone touch her, some of whom had been openly rude, all of whom were, in her mind, ready and eager to judge her for her looks, her feel, her hair, hell, her smell, for any and everything she was and wished she wasn't. She may have even had a trace of yearning, wishing that she too might join in, but knowing she simply could not. It is a tribute to my strange beauty in that time that I did not panic, did not hesitate, did not doubt. We both knew she had a small harbor in me, and I walked up smiling a smile that I have never seen, but that has been described to me as irresistible. I know it is, because it is absolutely genuine. I said, "Hi, you gonna come in?" She shook her head, and I never faltered. "But Esther," I said, "you have to. If you don't, the joke won't work. It's gotta be all or none." She saw the situation, and while I had said it was for the whole, she knew it was really for her. If she stayed, she would end up writing the actual embodiment of her emotional inner landscape. She would be alone on the bus, for real. I gave her the responsibility and respect needed for her to take a look, take a breath, and, God bless her, cram herself into that seat. I put her up front because she was tall and because then she could get out first, and because she'd earned it. I don't know if I am kidding myself that no one else could have set up the possibility of convincing her to play. I do know that I am the one person who ever pulled this particular gag, and so we will never know if I am the saint I am painting myself to be. Hell, for all I know, she was just scared shitless looking at that car full of fungulating flesh and seeing the potential disaster it represented. It is an example of my own complete lunacy that I was not. Until the absolute folly of it became evident even to me as we hove down the hill that leads to Trout Creek. No one but I, a veteran of at least 7 months driving, knew just how much we were high-planing on that dry autumn day. Never had I been so aware that the human body is 70% water, and I had basically filled the back of my dad's car with 200 gallons of it. The cumulative weight was such that when we hit the slightest dip, the car would drop effortlessly past the springs and shocks to grind pleasantly on the tires themselves. Then as we herniated back from the brink, that same weight would inertia up and lift the whole mess almost right off the road, only to come juggernauting back down again, and so to repeat the process. That hill is 1.5 miles of 7-degree gradient. By the time we slewed to the bottom, cliff wall on the right side, lake on the left, I was afraid to look at the Speedo, and hitting the brakes was as effective as pissing on a forest fire. We careened around the bend into the little suburb, tires screaming in agonized protest, a festival of laughter, young kids giggling in ignorant glee, older ones letting loose tremulous bursts of terror-induced hysteria. At the time, it was just another adventure, a moment of mad inspiration, a rush for a bunch of bored kids, and as such, a success. In retrospect, I am lucky it didn't result in me getting thrown in jail. Even I cannot imagine the look on the cop's face, or what the charge might be, or the more spectacular, and far more likely, tragic loss of 18 high school students in single vehicle incident. News headline. I did drop Esther off first. It didn't much change our relationship, though we did share the odd smile in the hallways. I could imagine it softened her interactions with the Trout Creek school bus crowd, but I am not that self-deceiving. In fact, I am pretty sure the one real triumph of that day was the moment I convinced a painfully shy victim of small-town cruelty to shake all that off, trust me, and get in the car. Because this is going to be fun. And it was. Night-night.